changes, electrostatic or electrodynamic changes in the body, that is what keeps us whole. That is what keeps us healthy. When we stop moving, people say that, obviously if you don't use it, you lose it. So our biology depends as much on electromagnetic frequency changes and the effects of those changes as much as it may rely on food and water. The pulse magnetic fields of the QRS then are designed in a sense to emulate and stimulate the same amount of force or energy in the body that movement would cause, i.e. exercise. Now obviously exercise produces other benefits to the body, but the QRS is going to be producing similar kinds of electrical or electrodynamic changes in the body that movement across the surface of the planet would do, or movement in general. I was involved in an experiment in Toronto in 1971, actually, many years ago, where we were looking at the possible bio-effects or field effects or biofield effects on the plant, being in the proximity of the plant. We wired up a plant to an electrical system that would measure the amount of energy emitted by the plant. And we tried to project emotions and light matches and so on in the vicinity of the plant, and really did not get any response. However, when somebody stood up from a seated position approximately 3 feet from the plant, the equipment registered a very strong signal. As soon as the motion stopped, the signal died off. If that person moved towards the plant, the signal increased again. When the motion stopped, the signal returned to normal. When the person moved backwards away from the plant, and normally the intuition would tell us that moving back away from the plant would decrease the signal, there would be no signal, but in fact actually the signal was just as strong moving back from the plant as it was moving toward the plant or standing up. So what we concluded is that the muscular activity of motion in the proximity of a plant projects a biofield or biomagnetic field across the space of about 3 feet, and it's strong enough that it would register on the leaves of the plant. So what does that mean? What it means to me, at least, is that we are electrically very, very sensitive organisms. I was going to say bodies, but basically, it's broader than that. It's an organism. We're an organism, like other organisms in biology are. And we know pulse magnetic fields affect biology significantly, and since we're biological, they're bound to affect us as well. The idea then would be to try to find ways, or vectors, if you will, treatment vectors, using those ideas and principles to be able to help us heal and to help people with various problems and maintain health and strength. So what my interest was in the QRS then is that we would be able to use a very low strength field, which should be more physiologically healthy, should be more physiologically balanced, would not create a vigorous physical response, say like chemotherapy does, or like ultrasound does, or like let's say surgery or trauma does. So using these low-level fields, we would produce a very small change in the body. It's like in a sense, like throwing a pebble in a pond. You create a wave of motion across that pond just from that one pebble. That motion continues for some period of time until eventually it dies off. With the resistance of the system, the water, etc. The force, the size of the pebble, whether it's cold or hot. All those things affect that resonant wave of action. So again, we still have a lot of background noise. If people would sit at their phones and listen, that would be even more helpful, if you don't mind, please. Now, early on in the development of the QRS, Dr. Kokushinig and Dr. Fisher at the University of Graz had done a study with small frequency fields at the 500 microtesla level, which is 500 microtesla is a half a Gauss.
Okay, when you started with the question, I wish you would have done it down here.
We have another conversation going on in the background. Unfortunately, I don't know whether those people even hear what the speaker is
Go very loud. It's very low.
Here? Did you press all the buttons?
Hello?
It's turned off. Go ahead.
All right, thank you.
If that back up, and I'll disconnect this and see if that goes louder. Go and pick that up.
So what happened is that they looked at different groups of patients who were in the practices of a number of doctors. And they had three basic groups of individuals. Those that had weather sensitivity, like if you have arthritis, people often describe that their arthritis
Has to be a way of making it less.
Hello? Well, Karen, we'll have to solve this problem in the future.
I know.
What happened is they had three groups of people. Those that were sensitive to weather, those that had various rheumatic conditions, including acute and chronic rheumatism, and that included like myalgias, shoulder, hand pain. If you get shoulder pain, very often that is radiated to the hand, and vice versa, actually, from the hand up to the shoulder. Various impingements of the nerves of the spine, usually in the neck, sometimes in the back. Those are called spondylopathies. And then arthritis of the back and knees and hips. So they had basically those three groups of people, and they treated them with a 4 hertz, 4 cycles per second field, and a 10 cycle per second field. Now the rheumatic group had a 15 cycle per second field. And then they used a clinical outcome measuring system to determine, the benefits of the treatment. The patients were selected. There were 80 patients, and they were randomly selected to either receive a sham or an active treatment device, and it was done in a double-blind fashion. The results showed that the 4-cycle field helped the sleep disturbance group, or the meteoric sensitivity group, dramatically. So the treated group had twice as much sleep improvement as the sham group. In other words, it was about a 78 to 80% improvement in various affective parameters, including sleep, versus about a 40% change or improvement in the sham group. So there's a fairly significant placebo response, at least as far as sleep is concerned. But it's clear that the magnetic field effect from the QRS is about double the benefit that you get just through normal random variation, or even the placebo response that you believe that you're getting an active treatment when in fact you're getting a sham treatment. That's a striking change, that's a striking improvement when you get an 80% improvement, 40% over, well actually it's 100% over placebo. The benefit was better after about 6 weeks of treatment. It took about 6 weeks to get the benefit. Again, this is a 4 cycle per second field versus about 2 weeks. Now, in 2 weeks, some people do get a benefit, but the benefit is like that wave, that pebble in the pond. That wave of action that's caused by the magnetic field can actually continue after the treatment is stopped. In the case of many of these patients, it actually continues for upwards of 6 weeks following the treatment. However, their study didn't follow people for more than 6 weeks, so not everybody actually completed 6 weeks, but it even stopped at 6 weeks no matter what. It generally took about 4 treatment cycles, about 4 days, for people with chronic rheumatism to feel significant improvement. Chronic problems seem to respond better to the field used there, which is about a 10 cycle per second field, that occurred in the placebo group. And basically they had about a 30% placebo response and about a 50% active treatment response. So that's about a 23% difference between the two. But it's 23% over 33%, which is still about a 2/3 difference. And that's significant. That's about a 60% improvement, if you will. Now, with rheumatism, the magnitudes of improvement were higher. They were closer to about 40%. Again, similar to the level that you saw with the meteoric sensitivity.